All right, everybody, welcome back to the Optimize You podcast, the show where we allow you to provide and get the value that is going to optimize you in health, nutrition, wellness, and everything in between. Today's an awesome show. I got myself, my man, Alex. Alex, how's it going?
Going good, brother. Going good.
Awesome. And today we have a very special guest. We've been trying to line up the schedules and get her on because we know she provides a ton of impact, a ton of value. And our special guest, I'm going to introduce her here shortly. She is from the Midwest. She was born and raised. She has a company that absolutely rocks it called Thriving On. She's a lover of steak, street tacos, sushi, and cookies. And she's an all-around badass. She got to speak at Coaching Con. So if you weren't there or you don't know what we're talking about, just know she has a high enough status to speak in front of a bunch of people. So the words that she's going to tell us today are awesome. They hold value. And without further ado, Casey, what is going on? We want to welcome you to the Optimize You podcast.
Hello, and thank you for having me on. I'm very excited to chat today.
Yeah, awesome. Absolutely. So you are in your workspace right now. We want to kind of get caught up to speed with how you got to where you're at right now. If you can give us kind of a condensed version, where'd you start at and bring us up to speed?
Yeah, like my origin story of how I became where I'm at today. Okay, so cliff notes on this. I'll try to keep it short because it's kind of a long story. So I actually found fitness and nutrition through my own adversity in life, a lot of struggling through battling an eating disorder majority of my life, over 10 years, being in an abusive relationship for a little bit of that time, and being borderline alcoholic, and anxiety and depression, and just really coping with all of that through like not treating my body well at all. Like I literally try to hate myself into the body and the lifestyle that I wanted, which inevitably I just added fuel to the fire. It wasn't until I hit absolute rock bottom that I found fitness, right? Like my rock bottom, I tell this story. My rock bottom is being found in a ditch an hour and a half outside of town, with nothing in my tank for gas and 1% on my phone, because I got in a fight with my abusive ex-boyfriend the night before at a party. And I had no business driving, but I knew I needed to get out of there. So I woke up the next day. A lovely man in a tractor pulled me out of the ditch, gave me his phone, called my dad to come pick me up. And my dad is my number one hero. He's been in my corner through everything. And so he saw me, only seen that man cry maybe twice in my life. That was one of them. And he was like, I don't know what else to do. You're either going to jail or you're changing your life. This is 100% up to you, because I can't do anything else. I've exhausted everything. And that was just a huge hit in the face that I needed to finally start creating change, because it was no longer just being self-destructive to myself. It was everybody around me and everything that I held important to me. So it was now my responsibility to make that change. And so I did. And one of the things that got me out of that hole was community through fitness. Whether or not people agree with CrossFit is beside the point. The one thing that they do really well is community. And I strongly believe this, the number one investment that you can make in life is literally who you surround yourself with, like mentors, coaches, community, your family, your friends. Like if you can really hone in on that and surround yourself with the right type of people, watch yourself like completely skyrocket through life. It is absolutely transformative. And so that's what happened to me. I lost over 50 pounds. I got the courage to stop drinking, get out of the abusive relationship, move away from everything that was really, I would say, kind of influencing me to make the wrong decisions and completely transform my life. And so that step of just joining the community and learning how to treat my body well brought me to this journey of becoming a full-time weightlifter and traveling all over the United States and the world, representing Team USA once. It's really not that big of a deal, but it's kind of a cool thing. My weight, what I lifted before, it's like mediocre now, but when I was there, it was kind of cool. It's kind of heavy. So like I got to represent USA for one time, and meet people I never thought possible, and be able to coach a bunch of people to learn how to become the CEO of their own damn health and essentially avoid all of the mistakes that I went through, which led me here today, where again, like I'm running Thriving On, I get to speak in front of thousands of people all the time. And for some reason they listen to me. I don't know why, but it's been a really, really wild ride, but I love it.
So awesome. And I've heard your story before, but not in some of those details I didn't. So it's very cool to hear that, because you were definitely put and placed in a position of you were faced with a crossroads. Like there's people that may have experienced some of those similar things that you have, maybe not the exact, but let's say similar. And they could have kept going down a dark path, and you found and you kind of gravitated towards fitness and you held on to that. You embrace the community aspect of it too. So to your point with the CrossFit thing, I coached in CrossFit since 2011. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And the whole community aspect can definitely change your world. And so the fact that you're not only running a business, but now you're bringing that and preaching that to other people. Like, hey, if you're struggling, we have a community here that's open arms. We're going to welcome you in. So anybody listening, if you are able to transition, and that's one of the easiest ways, if you guys are in a similar situation to like what Casey was, or you're going through your own stuff, I think it's super important to put yourself and surround yourself around people who are going to help bring you up. So one of the easiest ways is just to change your environment. So super, super cool story. I know Alex is really big on environment as well too. Alex, what are some ways that you were talking about as far as bringing yourself up and surrounding yourself around the right people and the right circumstances and situations?
Yeah, shit, we talk about this all the time on the pod, because like you're saying, Casey, and first off, that story is crazy, and I'm so glad that you made that choice to like go in that one direction, because like it's funny, I guess it isn't funny, but like for me, I had like the same type of thing where I had a rock bottom, and it was like that two choices, right? That two paths. It's like, go down this path, maybe end up in jail, maybe end up dead, or go down this path and like completely change your life and leave a lot of the shit behind you that is really tough to give up at the time. Because like for me, I had alcohol struggles, and that was like my life at the time, was like these people, like that's all we did, you know? And so I think that that's amazing that you were able to make the change. And then now you're at this crazy point where you're speaking in front of thousands of people and just making such a big impact. But yeah, when you talk about like environment and social, like people support system, like I think it is so big when it comes to us making like even the decisions that we need to move in the right direction, and kind of the topic of this podcast when it comes to discipline, right? And being able to stick with the things. I know for me, like when I was in a previous situation at a house where like I didn't feel safe because of some shit that happened, and I didn't realize how much it actually affected me until I got out of there. Like I kept having things creep in with like binge eating and just a lot of habits that really weren't serving me. And I continued to wonder, is like, why do I continue to struggle with these things? Like I'm in such a better headspace. And what I didn't realize is there was like this underlying stress that was causing me to go to these different things to help me cope. Right. And so I think that it is so huge. And, you know, for you, Casey, how did discipline and, you know, your environment really play in to you getting to where you are today and just you completely changing your life?
Yeah, definitely. Okay. So the thing that I'm going to talk about with discipline is that when I first started, I did it completely wrong, because I had this perception of what discipline is, like most people think. Most people think discipline is literally like white knuckling yourself and almost trying to beat yourself up or hate yourself into something. Like if I'm not as intense as David Goggins, which by no means if I'm knocking him, he's a freak of nature, but let's just say he's just like the 0.01% of the population that does not apply to majority of us. Like I used what I thought was discipline to help me get help me get to a certain point. But sooner or later, that white knuckling or trying to hate myself actually created a whole nother set of problems that I had to overcome later, and break past that. That took years to do, like to get through that journey. And so it wasn't until I actually learned what discipline actually is that I was able to learn how nutrition fitness was not some way of a prison or a way to hate myself into the body and life that I wanted, but the actual tool that I needed to unlock my full potential in life and actually enjoy it to its full potential. And I do think that the perception of discipline has a big hand in that. Right. And so I'll just go in the go into a little bit more of the difference between what people think discipline is and what discipline actually is, and the science behind it as well. And so what most people think discipline is that they literally need to just try harder, right? Like you see so many fitness professionals online being like, you just need more discipline. Like motivation is fleeting, blah, blah, blah. Be more disciplined. And then when coaches, you see this a lot, and we know this as coaches, is like, this isn't true at all. But like there's some coaches out there who's just like, you're just not disciplined enough. You need to want it more. And so all we've heard pretty much our whole life is that like, you need to be more disciplined. You need to want it more. You need to try harder. You need to white knuckle things. Well, here's the thing is like, we want lifelong change. We can't white knuckle our way through life. We will burn out. We won't be able to do this stuff for life. And even if we try to do it, we're going to become freaking miserable and hate the whole process, which is not the point of this. The point of this is to love this, love the journey, love who we are, love how we live and think and we feel. And so if we are trying to white knuckle, we're literally just setting ourselves up for failure day number one. Right. And so with that being said, what discipline actually is, I love how James Clear breaks this down really well. And I loved it. I remember reading his book, Atomic Habits, which, by the way, if you've not read Atomic Habits by James Clear, absolutely phenomenal book.
Awesome book.
I highly suggest you stop what you're doing, go to Amazon.com, put that in your cart and press buy, because it's absolutely phenomenal. It's very simple. It's extremely applicable. And I'm going to paraphrase basically what he said, but at the simplest terms, disciplined people are actually really quite lazy. They find the easiest ways to make the change that they need to make. They don't white knuckle through things. They don't try to work harder or try to be quote unquote more disciplined or things like that. They literally are super, super lazy. Because here's the science behind it. When you look at disciplined people, people have high amounts of self-efficacy where they say they're going to do it, they know they're going to do it, and they're willing to do it, and they actually follow through with it. That's basically self-efficacy, right? When people have that high amount of self-efficacy and discipline, they don't have any more willpower than anybody else. They have the same amount of willpower as somebody who's been struggling with quote unquote discipline their whole life. The difference is that the way that they're doing it, it makes their life easier. It makes it stupid easy for them to create the change that they're looking for. And so James Clear goes into a couple of ways to create more discipline, which I absolutely love, and we can go through those. And then there's also like key traits of disciplined people and the science behind it too that we can go through as well.
I love that. So I'm putting myself in the shoes of even some of my clients, and you guys probably experience this as well. I do it on a personal level, but let's say a client comes to you and they're struggling. Let's say they are a white knuckler, or they don't even have the ability to quite do that yet. Maybe they haven't started that yet. What would be your suggestion on kind of like the first steps on somebody on where to start so they don't necessarily have to feel like grit and grinding their way through? It's like, how would you set them up for success to kind of start right off the bat?
Yeah, do less.
Yeah.
Do less. Right. So disciplined people have a high amount of self-efficacy, right? Or a growth mindset that they are capable and they are worthy of that change. Okay. And so many times when people are going for the disciplined approach, they're trying these dramatic diets or fitness programs that are like completely make themselves miserable, and they're totally overshooting. And so they either attempt to do it and they fall short all the time, or they do follow through, but then they gain it all the way back and then some, because it's just not sustainable for them, because it's just too much. Right. And so now you're in this perpetual cycle of making a promise to yourself and not keeping it. And so the best way to create confidence that you are able to do something, follow through with it, and create a lot of self-efficacy, which is a key trait of disciplined people, is to learn how to keep promises to yourself. Right. So if you're on chapter 1 and you're trying to keep promises to yourself or try to do things that a person in chapter 50 could be doing, you're going to fall off. You're going to break that promise. And then you're going to go back to that cycle of not believing in yourself and not creating that discipline. So start off small. right? If you are somebody that is not working out at all right now, start off with 1 day. Like that's it. Like I've legit coached people where they are super intimidated by the gym and they haven't worked out in years. Despite working out so much in the past, it's still really intimidating because they're kind of ashamed by it. And I'm like, okay, great. You know what? This week, the only thing that you got to do is go in the gym and me and you are going to have a coaching call for a half an hour while you walk on the treadmill. And they're like, wait, what? I'm like, no, seriously. Like, that's it. You're keeping a promise to yourself. And by the way, you're also like fitting it in your schedule, which is a whole nother monster. We work with busy people. So like when you're busy and you're stressed, finding time in your schedule sometimes takes a couple of weeks and some practice to do that. So now we're killing 2 birds with 1 stone, but we're starting off small. And then the week after that, then we met for 2 times. The week after that, we met for 3 times. And then the week after that, I was like, hey, do you think that you could possibly just do a workout without me? And she's like, you know what? Yeah, I think I can. Okay, great. Now just do 1 workout and we'll talk twice. Now do 2 workouts and we'll talk once. Now do 3 workouts. How about now? Do you feel confident that you can do 4 now? And we built that pattern. But most people think, if I'm going to work out, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to start working out 5 days a week for 2 hours. And all of a sudden they can't even sit on the toilet. They feel like crap. They're tired, maybe injured later on, and they just fall off. It's like start smaller than you think. Start small, build those promises. Think of it as the snowball effect. I talk about this all the time with my clients. It's like, think of it as a snowball effect. Okay. Start off as a teeny tiny little snowball. And the more and more you go, all of a sudden you get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now you're a boulder. And then all of a sudden you're an avalanche. You're a force to be reckoned with that can be like translate in pretty much everything else in life, which is a beautiful thing with nutrition fitness that a lot of people don't realize is when you start learning how to keep promises with yourself within nutrition fitness, watch everything else in life completely explode. Because like nutrition fitness, it's hard. You do cool things in the gym that you never thought possible. You achieve things that you never thought you could. And all of a sudden you feel really great and you have this momentum and people are like, well, if I can do that, then what else can I do? Right. So it's a wonderful experience. And it all starts with do less. Just do less than you think you need to.
I love it. And honestly, like the keeping the promises thing, like I think is one of the, like put it as high as you possibly can, right? Like if you can develop that good relationship with yourself, not only are you building the snowball, right, but you're building confidence too, right? And that just translates to every other area of your life. Because that's number one for me is like, if I can go through the day and if I put something on my list, like it has to get done, right? That's my non-negotiable. And I know it's, for some people, it may seem crazy, it may seem unrealistic, but if I have to stay up 2-3 hours later to get stuff done, I take so much stock in that keeping of promises and not letting my confidence go lower than it is, like trying to just only take those steps up. And so I think that's so awesome. And kind of what you were talking about as well, sounds like a lot of this has to do with expectations versus reality for a lot of people, where it's like, you know, they have these super unrealistic expectations. Oh, it's going to take 12 times in the gym this week for me to get where I want to be. And so I'd love for you to talk on that when it comes to just like how you handle that with your clients and just anybody maybe in your group or whatever when it comes to those two things.
Yeah, like that. I will be honest with you. That's probably one of the number one things that completely derails people from their journey is just these expectations of what it's supposed to be. And this is a common conversation that I have with everybody. I was literally talking about this on a call with a client just before this, talking about expectations. We're talking about in our first phase of coaching our clients, this is the phase where we fix everything that's derailing them, right? Whether it's relationship of food or metabolism or stress management or internal health or whatever it is, because if we don't fix that first, the whole dieting process is going to suck or you're not going to see results and then you're going to fall off and break another promise to yourself. And then that's a whole ordeal that we want to avoid. But one of the things that during that process, we had to start doing things differently. And sometimes we had to take a couple steps back in order to take a skyrocket forward. And so they're talking about, well, I'm not doing this, or I've been struggling with this, and this person's been doing this and all that stuff. And I'm like, stop right there, right? Think about the source in which you got that information of expectations of like what it's supposed to be. How do you define success, right? Most people have learned the definition of what success is supposed to be within nutrition fitness and what the process is supposed to look like through diet culture bullshit. quick fixes and challenges that are literally geared to make you see quote unquote results to gain it back and then some, which isn't results. That's literally yo-yo dieting, which makes you worse than when you started, both mentally and physically. So that's like one of the worst things that you could do. And so it's like, okay, let's take a step back. Let's zoom out. Let's look at the source in which you've learned what success is. And they're like, oh, okay, great. So now we need to take a look and see what is success to you. Right? Because another thing that really does derail people and really does add into breaking your promises to yourself and really hinders your ability to become disciplined, that growth mindset that you are capable and worthy of that change, is that you're trying to do a cookie cutter approach. You're trying to do diet culture bullshit. Right. And so in that definition of success, if you're not seeing the weight go down dramatically, if you're not killing yourself in the gym, if you don't have 6-pack abs, if you don't do this within a certain amount of time frame or things like that, just add up, then you're not succeeding. And it's like, okay, what is success to you? What are you trying to achieve, especially at this phase right now? And they're like, well, I'm trying not to feel like shit all the time. And I would like to shit in the toilet sometimes. And I would like to have better sex with my partner and I would feel stronger. And I would like to not feel nauseous all the time because I'm super stressed out because I can't eat and all these things. I'm like, okay, great. Right? Like we're defining what success is right now. We're getting clarity. That's a big thing. Clarity, what you actually want. But so many people are stuck into, like, again, that perception of what success is supposed to be that's been taught to us and conditioned from day number one of diet culture bullshit. Now we have to take a step back and be like, okay, how do we define success? What does that look like for us at this moment in our phase in our life? Get extreme clarity and define that, right? Manage your expectations, get very clear of what is success. So that way you won't get distracted by things that are not true or not serving you at this moment, right? And another thing that I would like to point out is that you need to figure out what works best for you as well during this time too, right? Like I tell my clients this, I'm not even gonna have you do what I do because it's not gonna work. Like I eat weird. I'll be honest with you. Like it's pretty plain and it doesn't make sense sometimes, but it makes sense to me and it works for me. Like you probably a little bit of a foodie. You like things that look great. That's neither good or bad. It's just what works for you. So if you try to do what I do or a bullshit meal plan or something like that, like you're gonna fall off. So again, getting extreme clarity, not only what is success to you, but how do you want to achieve it? What are you willing and capable of doing? Again, self-efficacy, that you are willing, you are capable, and you have the confidence you're going to follow through. That's another huge thing that needs to happen to create the discipline that you're looking for. Otherwise, again, you're just setting yourself up for failure day number one.
So, I mean, I wish we had that button, Alex. I was looking at you while she was saying a couple of those things. We need a bomb or some type of button that's going off.
We're talking about that with Jared. We're like, have a guy behind me, like jumping up and down, like.
But I was hitting that marker button because she brought up some great things. I hope people are getting value from this in terms of they hear some of the same things that Alex and I say. Alex and I love talking about clarity. You also mentioned things about putting yourself in with the expectations and understanding you can do things that are kind of just like this breadcrumb trail so that you can create the snowball effect and kind of get things going in that direction. And so I hope people are hearing that and taking that and absorbing that you don't have to have this drastic plan. Like you don't have to go 0 to 100 really quick. And in fact, we all know as coaches, the all or nothing mindset in the health and fitness realm is not going to serve you. At some point, it actually sets you up for success, right? It's on the surface, it looks like this awesome mentality and you want to go, 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 go. And then before you know it, you're like, oh man, this is harder than I thought. You start to Casey's point, you start breaking promises to yourself, the self-belief, the confidence starts to dwindle down lower and lower. And now you're like, oh man, I'm faced with this daunting task. I'm at the bottom of the mountain and I'm looking up. And so the fact that she gave you some ideas, some little golden nuggets just to put, hey, you know what? I want you to just go walk while we're on the phone right now. And I think a lot of people think they need to start off with 3, 4, 5 workouts a week, going from 0. So doing something that simple, I think is the catapult or is the slingshot that'll set you up for success to continue to keep going. So awesome points there. I'm going to take that a step further. Let's say somebody is getting that snowball effect and they are going in the right direction. And all of a sudden they find either some old habits or maybe some old tendencies creeping in. What's your advice to that person? They feel like, oh man, I wasn't white knuckling it, but now I feel like I kind of am in the process, or I feel myself falling off. What's your advice to that person to kind of get back on track or to kind of help them out?
Yeah, definitely. So like whenever, like my first step always, whenever you're about to make any kind of change whatsoever, should always be awareness first. Why are you in that situation right now? Because like, here's the thing is like, as a human being, you will be faced with that. That is not a bad thing at all. We are very dynamic human beings. We change, we evolve, we grow. At least we should be, right? It's a good trait to push yourself and grow as a person and develop and evolve over time. And so we have to understand what serves you now is not going to serve you later. What helped you become disciplined in this phase of your life is not going to work in this next phase, especially parents. Like they're like, it worked for me before I had a kid and now I have a kid. I'm like, yeah, your life is completely different. You're a whole nother person. Of course it's not going to work for you. So the fact that we have to, like we run into these situations where we're like, like I'm being met with resistance again, like, then we get mad. We're like, no, it's just the process. It's expected. So the first step is just to accept that, show some compassion. It's like, I'm a human being. I'm not a robot. This shit happens. All right. What do we need to do? Take a step back, create awareness. Why am I in this situation? What's happening? Okay, great. I've identified that. So what is going to be the path that's going to work for me to become more disciplined? Okay. And so do you mind if as I go through this, I like start dropping actionable things that people can start doing become
by all means, do it.
I want to do that because most people are like, just be more disciplined. And people are like, I've been hearing this my whole fucking life, but I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know what to do.
Where do I start? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. So one of the things that you can do is like, after you create awareness, you see what's going on. What you need to do is like, again, ask yourself, take your step back. Like, what am I willing, able, and capable of doing? Right. So for example, let's take me for an example. Okay. So I have been a weightlifter my whole life, right? Or not my whole life, but I've been in the weight room my whole life in some way. I was a softball player. Then I was a full-time weightlifter for 5 years. And I've just been in the gym the whole time. And so I got to this point where I was being met with resistance. I had this extreme amount of discipline going into the gym. And all of a sudden I didn't want to fucking be there anymore. And it was really hard for me to get in there. And if I did, I half-assed my workout and it was reflecting and all this different stuff. And I was like, okay, what the frick is going on? So I zoomed out, took the perspective, and I was like, over some time, I've asked myself that question of like, what's actually going on? What's going on? What's going on? And getting the root cause. It turned out that one, my life completely shifted. Like we talked about before I was an athlete. That was my identity. Now I'm a business owner. That's no longer my identity. It no longer drives me like it did before. And that's okay. Right. Two, I'm burnt out. I've been in the gym my whole life and I want something new. Okay, great. Awareness. I need something new, something that's going to get me out of the gym. Right. And three, I have ADHD up the yin yang. I get bored real fast. I just got bored. I got real bored. I wanted something different. It's like, okay, great. Awareness. Now, what am I willing, capable, and I know that I'm confident that I can do? Okay. I am willing to still lift, just not all the time. Okay. I am willing to spend at least an hour during the weekday and maybe an hour and a half to 2 hours on Saturday. That is it. Right. I'm also only capable of doing things that can be flexible and adaptable. I can move them through the day. And if I miss a couple workouts during a week, it's not that big of a deal. So that means I can't hold a huge commitment to a team or a huge commitment to a competition or anything like that. Okay, great. Now I've got clarity of what I'm willing, able, and capable of doing. And then now I get to ask myself, what do I actually want to do? What can I do? Like what adds value to my life and what I can actually follow through with. And so like with some really deep searching lately, I actually just came up with this last week and I freaked out. I was like, I got it. And I told my boyfriend, he's like, that's great. Cause it was like an inner monologue for like months. And I like freaked out and he was like, cool, good for you. I support you. But he didn't get it. Anyways, the big thing that I realized was that A big thing that fundamentally fills up my cup is going out and going on adventures, trying new things, meeting new people, seeing sights that take my breath away, and doing cool things that I never thought possible with my body. It's just something that's always driven me. It's never been aesthetics. Like, yeah, I do want to look good naked, but I'll be honest with you, it only takes me so far before I'm like, fuck it. Like, give me a cupcake or something. Like, just my aesthetics follow because I love performing and I love going on adventures and I just love being active and living my life. Okay. So that's what fills up my cup. That's going to create the discipline and the motivation as well to do the things that I want to do. Okay, great. Now I'm on the track of learning how to do more endurance running because I've never been taught that. I've always been straight up lifting or sprints. So it's like, cool, we're learning something new. I'm doing something that I suck at. And then from there, I'm going to use that to go and do really cool shit. Like I've always wanted to do the ultimate Hawaiian trail run. Like go to Hawaii and go running on the trails and seeing the sights and doing a fundraiser and all that shit. That sounds dope. Right? Like my boyfriend was talking about there's this paddleboarding race in Jamaica. And I'm like, cool. Like, I don't think I'm anywhere near that, but like those things are what's lighting a fire underneath my butt. And like, oh, okay. Now the discipline's coming back. Now I'm showing up in the gym. Now I'm excited to be there. Now I'm following through the promises that I keep to myself. Right. So you see how that trace goes back to like, showing yourself some compassion, taking a step back. Why are you being met with resistance? Then from there, figuring out a pathway that's going to work best for you and help you create self-efficacy. If that makes sense.
That's awesome. And do you follow Jesse Itzler?
I am such a face person. Whenever somebody's like, do you know this person? I'm like, show me their face and I'll tell you yes or no. So I don't know.
Do you know Sarah Blakely?
Again, face person.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry. It annoys the crap out of me. I'm such a face person.
So I asked you because like I think that first off, you made a million good points in there. And secondly, like when you talked about what you found, really it seems like your true passion is just doing cool shit, right? Like doing fun shit, which is awesome. And Jesse Itzler, like that's his thing is like he's done like he just basically has like an experience checklist. I think he calls it like a fuck it list. Where it's like, if you have something, just write it down. And you were listing a lot of cool stuff. And that's kind of what he would say is like, just he's had stuff on this list for like decades. And he just continues to check off these things that he, used to think were unrealistic, right? Like they're never going to happen. So I think that's really cool that you figured that out and that you've been able to just pinpoint how you can live your life to the fullest. Cause I think that's something that everybody can take. I know that it has something to do with discipline because it's going to allow you to really keep that discipline when you're living and you're doing things that you love and you're doing cool things to you. Right. And so I think that is really cool realization. I'm a realization guy myself. Like, just like I think Matt can attest, like I'm always coming up with like new shit. I'm like, oh, like this is good. And like different models. And then I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm huge on like the doing exciting stuff every week and day and scheduling it in like golf rounds and stuff like that. But I love that you found your true passion.
At least for this phase. We evolve and we grow and we change. And again, the ADHD, like one thing that makes me super happy right now, I'm going to be on the next thing later. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time, but this is what's serving me in this phase in life. And that's okay. And when I am met with resistance again, the process will happen again. With no judgment whatsoever. We'll adapt it and we adjust. So
I love it.
But let's go, if you don't mind, let's go into a couple more tactical ways that people can become more disciplined. Is that okay with you guys?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool.
Let's rock it.
So another big one, and James Clear goes into this a lot in his own way, but this is the way that I explain it. When you really get down to behavior change, the way that the brain works as we are as human beings, and honestly, in almost everything is the path of least resistance. We love it, right? If it's really, really hard, if there's a lot of friction, our brain's naturally going to take the path of least resistance, right? And so something that a lot of people say out there is that in order for you to make the decision consciously to make a change and follow through with it, the pain of staying the same has to be worse than the pain of change. That is why there's so many people like myself that unfortunately had to wait until ground bottom to make change. It's very similar to like, hey, you can lose 5 pounds now or you can lose 50 pounds later. Most people that only have 5 pounds to lose, they're like, meh, it's okay. Future self will take care of it. And all of a sudden they're 50 pounds to go. And they're like, shit, I should have done it with the 5 pounds. Yeah, exactly. It's because the pain of change was greater than the pain of staying the same at that point. And so let's put it in position of friction. Let's say that your pain or your friction is, I have to wake up early to go run in the morning or go to the gym. And you keep sleeping in or turning on the snooze, okay? Because the pain of staying the same is not greater than the change. You want to stay in bed, right? Okay, cool. So we can make the pain worse, or we can make it easier for you to make the change that you need to reduce that friction. And that's a big thing that I teach my clients is like, okay, you're just creating too much friction to create the change. How do we make it stupid easy for you to make those changes? Okay. So for example, if you want to wake up early, okay, cool. So when you wake up early, you're turning off the snooze because it's right next to your bed. Okay. Take that alarm and put it across your house. So that way it forces you to get up. Now you don't have that opportunity to just go back to bed. You're already up. Less friction. Okay. Let's add on to that. So then it's another added friction that you have to go back into your bedroom, which you'll see your bed and then you have to get clothes. So you're probably just going to go to bed instead. No. Grab your clothes, put it by your alarm clock. Right. Oh, and by the way, you have to create your water bottle. You maybe have to eat a snack. Okay. Have that ready in the fridge. You don't have to do anything. So that way it becomes almost stupid easy for you to create the change that you're looking for. Going back to what we said before, this is when people are actually really quite lazy. They find ways to make it stupid easy for them to make the changes that they want. They create least amount of friction, right? Another example is, there's this book that I read when I first started becoming a nutrition coach. It's absolutely groundbreaking. It's called Mindless Eating Solutions. And I can't remember his name. I even looked at it because I knew I was going to bring it up here before we jumped on, and I still slipped my mind. I'll let you guys know after this so you guys can put it in the notes. It's an amazing book. So basically the author was paid by high-end executive CEOs and also restaurants, like buffet style restaurants, to make it mindless for people to eat less. Right? Because in buffets, if you set it in a certain way where it's mindlessly creating this opportunity for people to eat less, the buffets save more money in the long run. And CEOs, most of them don't want to do all the things. They think that they're too busy and things like that too. So they want somebody to make it stupid easy for them to eat less. So he would go in. And some of the big key things that he did is like, one big thing was doing a kitchen clean out. Right? Like I have a rule in my house and we joke about this with our clients is like, if I sees it, I eats it. Like if you got cookies on your countertop and you see it all the time, if you got candy bowls from Halloween, of course you're gonna eat it, dude. Like it's there. You see it over and over and over again. It is just natural. You are going to eat it. Right? So create less friction or more friction to not do something, if that makes sense. Right? So let's say that you want to eat more fruits and vegetables, okay? Create less friction. Put it on eye height in your fridge in clear containers so you see it. Also, you can add it into, like if you want to be eating more cucumbers, okay? Chop it up before you put it in the container so that way you don't have to chop it up later, right? Or if you need to be eating more fruits and vegetables, go buy the frozen one that's pre-seasoned and it takes 0 time at all to eat it. Like less friction than having to wash it, then season it, then clean it up after. Like there's no excuse. There you go. Go get it. It still tastes good, right? And if you want to create more friction to not do something, let's say a candy bowl, put it in a container that you can't see into, right? Put it on the top shelf where you have to pull out a stool to step on it, or you can go even further and be like, just don't keep it in the house. You're not saying that you can't have a cookie or ice cream or things like that. Just don't bring it in the house. So that way it creates more friction. You have to take a step back and ask yourself, do I actually want this cookie? Or am I just bored or feeling emotions that I don't want to feel, things like that. If it's like, hey, I'm actually bored and I don't want to feel these emotions, then you have a step, like it's added friction for you to make the right decision. But if you're like, no, Dad, like I really want it, then like go in a car, go get it, get a single serving, don't bring it back. Mindless ways for you to make decisions. So that's just a couple ways that you can do that. The other thing that disciplined people do that's actually really quite like a different way of thinking is that they actually do use motivation. right? Everybody's like, you don't use motivation. Motivation sucks. It's fleeting, blah, 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 whatever. And it's like, motivation is actually really quite helpful. What disciplined people don't do is rely solely on motivation, right? Analogy I like to use is that, like, okay, it's pretend like you think of it as like you're running, right? And motivation is like wind. Okay. You don't use the wind to run. Now, when the wind comes, it like cools you down, or like if you're going down a hill, it's also pushing you. You're going to use that momentum like when it comes, and it's welcomed, but it's not expected the whole time. Right. So like, let's not demonize motivation. Let's use it to our advantage. But they also have the perspective of like so there's two different studies that are kind of like contradictory to each other. So like there's one study done when it comes to motivation. They put probes on their heads and things like that. And it's like the average time that you feel motivated is about 15 minutes, right? Versus there's another research out there that's saying that you are always motivated. It's just a question of what are you motivated to do? Are you motivated to go work out or sit on the couch? Right. So it's just interesting perspectives. We're still diving into the science of mindset and things like that. So it's still up there, but it's interesting perspective. So just creating clarity as to like mindset, like motivation's not bad. It can be a tool, but it's not something that you want to rely on all the time. You're not always going to be super motivated and be excited to go to the gym. Like, full transparency, I was not motivated to get up and go on a walk in the morning, but I did anyways, because I made it stupid easy for me to make that decision. And I know long term it's a really great thing. And I've created this instance that I have a high amount of self-efficacy, so I will follow through with it and things like that. But like, there's days where I'm super motivated and I grab my dog and we go walk and like stuff like that. But I don't rely on it all the time. Right. So that's another key thing that like disciplined people do as well.
I love that. That's a great point. And it's like, I think people get anti-motivation or like think it's not going to be part of their journey, or like, oh man, I shouldn't think about that at all. But hey, when that motivation strikes, I'm a fan. Like, use it. Like, you better take advantage of it while it's there. So I love that. You're just like, hey, if the wind's pushing you, great advantage. Alex, I was thinking of you, man. If we're teeing off on the tee box, like if that wind's blowing and it's from behind us, like we're going to use that on our drive, dude.
Oh, dude, like we're going to lean into it a little bit. See how far we can get this baby down the
use it. And I love the way you kind of broke down, almost like being in. It sounds like you're looking for situations to be in control of friction or frictionless scenarios. Like, you're almost like controlling the friction. You're like, let me use it to my advantage here, to not go crazy. Like, I hope my mom's listening to this. Mom, I love mom, but she brings over the Costco size M&Ms, right? And so they're there until basically I eat them. Mm-hmm. She got really good at going, you know what? I'll just bring you a Ziploc of a serving over. And I'm like, perfect. Like, that's awesome. Right. Like, let's get the whole container out of my sight. And so doing things like that, you mentioned the things like the vegetables. If my goal is to eat more vegetables or have more greens, like put them on eye level so that you can see them in a clear container. And it's almost like we talk about the out of sight, out of mind thing. If you want to create more friction, then apply it, use it to your advantage. I think we almost by default think of friction as like, oh man, it makes it hard to do things. It's like, well, the way Casey's saying is like, bend friction to your advantage, like use it where you can, like create leverage with it. And I just really love those points. I think people will definitely absolutely get value from that for sure.
And something that I forgot to mention, which is like kind of like what we already talked about, is your environment too. Like, you can create less friction for you to be able to make the changes that you want by, like I was talking about before, cleaning out your kitchen. That's an environment in itself, but also the people that you surround yourself with. Like, dude, if you're hanging out with a bunch of people that drink all the time and eat like crap and you're trying to eat better and you're surrounded by that, of course it's going to be hard for you to make the decision, especially if they're kind of jerks and are peer pressuring you. Like, address who you surround yourself with, which is a hard conversation sometimes that we have to have with our clients. It's like, are these people actually serving you? Like, what's the big picture? What do you want in your life? Is that worth possibly spending less time with those people that it's kind of like the crabs in the cup in a bucket? Like, if you've ever seen crabs trying to crawl out of a bucket, they don't, because once one crab is about to pull out, the rest of them are pulling them back down. And it's a perpetual cycle of just pulling each other back down. And so, like, if you feel like you're a crab in a bucket, it might be time to find a new bucket. Like, find some people that aren't going to pull you down, but are going to motivate you to keep getting better, that are not going to take your shit. Just like when I went into the CrossFit gym, like, they weren't pulling me down. Matter of fact, they didn't take my excuses at all. They like did not take my shit. When I didn't show up, they were on my ass. And when I was like, man, I could never do that, they're like, bullshit. Like, you need to think better. You need to dream better. You need to have higher expectations for yourself. And just by surrounding myself with those people, I started believing in myself more. Right. And it's the same thing. Was that decision to get out of that old relationship super hard? Yes. Was that decision to get out of the friend group that all they did was party, and they honestly, just looking back, didn't give two shits about me? They just wanted a good time. Oh, 100%. I remember crying myself to sleep multiple nights, right? It was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do. But looking back at it, I would do it 100 times over, knowing how it feels to be surrounded by people that truly care about you, that truly elevate you, to help you keep those promises to yourself, to dare to dream and think bigger. Like, something I'm reinstating this, and I get really passionate about this, is that like nutrition fitness is not just about looking better naked. It literally affects everything in your life as a person. Everything from how you look, yes, but also how you perform in the gym, but also how you think, how you feel, the quality of the life that you're going to live, how you are to the people that you love, and also like how you treat your body and mind is foundation to you and any goal that you have, whether you're an entrepreneur or trying to be the best parent you are. Like, it literally affects everything. And so when you finally do this hard shit, you do the scary shit, you surround yourself with the right type of people, you start learning how to become more disciplined, treat your body and mind right, you will completely transform as a person, both mentally and physically. And then you'll go from like me being this girl in a ditch to speaking in front of thousands of people wondering why they want to hear me talk. It's that transformative. If you just learn how to, again, surround yourself with the right type of people, show yourself some respect, and dare to dream, like, basically. So that's a little tangent that I like to do. It's just like, I just don't think that people understand that. I think that, again, diet culture bullshit has done a really good job of conditioning us that it's like a prison, when it actually is like the thing you need to become the best version of yourself.
That's so awesome. And I'm glad you went back to support system, because I actually wrote something down here a little while ago about just a question to ask you. And so you went back there. And, you know, when it comes to the support system, let's say I'm somebody, because I deal with this, I see this, I'm sure you see this as well. I'm somebody who, it's my family, right? So like, they're like, I can't get this stuff out of the house because my husband always buys it, or, you know, my kids love it or whatever. And, you know, I'd love to hear what your feedback is to this person, or like how you approach this with your clients when it comes to these scenarios. Because I think they're a little bit different, obviously, than when it comes to your friends, right? Where you can kind of limit yourself from these people. You know, there's certain family members that are not in the house. Obviously, you can limit yourself from these people, and you get away from some of those influences that maybe aren't going in the right direction or aren't pushing you towards where you want to be. But when it comes to these people in the house, I think that's where a lot of people really struggle.
Oh yeah, 100%. I've had, I don't know how many conversations of this, and it's a little bit of a harder conversation, because again, it's going into the family and things like that. And by no means am I here to tell people how to run their family or live their life. I'm just here to guide and make sure that they have the guidance they need to make an educated decision. But some things that I always ask is like, one, have you even communicated what you're doing right now? Because if you don't even talk to them about the choices that you're making or the changes that you're making and how to make it and how they can support you, they're going to expect the same thing over and over again. Just like if you're trying to not drink as much and you go to a bar and your friend is like, hey, let's drink. Oh, you're not drinking. What the fuck? Like, let's go. And then they're like, defensive, like, stop being an asshole. But they've never even communicated that they're trying to make the change. They're like, dude, like, I was just expecting you to do the same thing you always do. Like, I didn't know. Right. So like it's the same principle there. It's like, have you communicated to your significant other or your kids what you're trying to do? But doing it in a position, I always say this is like, okay, you're probably going to go talk to them. You're probably being like, I'm on this diet thing. And I want you guys to just support me. And like, okay, all the other diets that you've done in the past, like bullshit diets of tilapia and broccoli, and they see you like absolutely miserable, body dysmorphia and all these things. So in their mind, they're going to be like, oh my gosh, I don't want you to fucking do this. This is miserable. You're doing another one and you're just going to fall off, and then you're going to be pissed off. And then I have to deal with that shit. Go to them and be like, hey, I just want to show myself a little bit more respect. Like, I'm just trying to take care of myself so that way I can be better to you. And also to take care of you guys more, right? And I'm going to do it by creating a lifestyle change and learning how to do this right. Okay. I'm going to make these type of choices in my life. And all I want really is for your support and your love. That's all I'm looking for. If you want to do this with me, I would love that. That would actually make it way easier. And I think that we can learn how to have fun to do it together. But ultimately, I'm just looking for your support. Is that something that we can do? Like just having that conversation alone, instead of being super defensive, now you're actually reaching out to them and asking them for help. Everybody loves to help people. Everybody. If I had that conversation, I'd be like, oh my God, of course. Like, how can I help you? Can I do it with you? Like, what do we need to do? Like, what changes are we making? Like, most people want to help you, right? So like, if you just have that conversation, I bet you $10, majority of the people are going to respond really well, and they're probably going to jump on, right? Or they're at least going to try to support you in any way, as long as you clearly communicate what you need from them and also allow them feedback. So let's say that it's like, hey, like I want to meal prep everything and anything. And they're like, I get that. And I love that. But like some of the foods that you're eating, I don't like. Then meet together and compromise. It's like, okay, great. Can we do more of a buffet style dinner where it's like you get to figure out what you put on your plate and I get to, and my portion size is, right? Instead of me making the plates and everything like that. Can we go to restaurants that have multiple different options rather than just one option, like just salads and things like that? That way everybody can find options that work for them. So it's a lot of communication and collaboration and working together to achieve that goal. But we find out as we get older, most people really suck at communication. So that one first question is like, have you properly communicated? Okay. Now, some people do have those conversations and their significant other or their kids are still being met with like not necessarily receptive to that. Then from there, it goes into personal boundaries. We can't always control how people think and how they feel, and neither is that our responsibility. We can only control how we think and how we feel in our actions. And so if somebody like a family member or your significant other or your kids do not have an adverse effect or do not receive that very well, but you know to your core that is what's going to be best for you, you need to have personal boundaries and stick to it. And some of the conversations I've had with people is like, so you're doing this not only to improve your life, but you know for a fact, like let's say your kids are little sponges and they're going to absorb every single little thing that you do, correct? Yes. And one of the reasons why you're in this situation is possibly because the habits and the behaviors you learned from your parents as growing up. Yes. And you want to break that cycle. Yes. So right now, your kids are emotional. Do they know everything? No. Do they throw fits over stupid shit that you know when they get to old adulthood, they're going to be like, that was really stupid? Yes. You're an adult. You make the decisions. You know it's better for them. You stick to your guns and they'll thank you later. Trust me. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Right. And then I also have to remind them that their kids are little mini me's of them. What you like they eat, you should eat. So if you're like, I'm not going to eat pretzels all the time because it makes me feel like crap. Trust me, your kids are feeling like crap. Right. But also like if you're in a diet and you never eat candy or you never indulge on things or live your life and you never would want that for your kids, that's another thing is you shouldn't be doing that diet in the first place, because again, now you're showing them poor behavior patterns that you don't want them to learn. Right. So it's vice versa. So like whatever you're doing, you should have confidence that your kids should be doing it too, and that those habits are going to build. And then that goes from there. And then from there, like significant others, that's a gray area. I've had some honest conversations with some clients. I've had some like conversations where I'm like, this is a question for you. I cannot answer this for you on how you handle this. All I need to tell you is that we're here to support you in whatever decision that you make, whether it's setting personal boundaries or whether you just cave in and it's the life that you're going to live and we're going to support you, we're going to love you and things like that. Or, I mean, I've had clients talk to me and they're like, and it's more than just like not eating well. It's just the whole lifestyle period. They're starting to learn how to treat their body well and take care of their health. And then all of a sudden, like it just gets to a position where they're just two different like pathways and they have to talk about that. That's a really hard conversation. I don't like going that road, but I've been through that too myself. And so it's just one of those things where nobody can tell you what to do. Only you can define it. Long story short.
There's so much gold in there. I'm hitting the mark button on here a lot so people can go back and reference that. But the support system is huge, right? We all know that as coaches, and we have to have those difficult conversations with our clients as well. And so one of the huge points that you brought up was not only having the communication, but it's more of it's like an open table. It sounds like you have the approach of, or you suggest to have the approach of cooperative communication. Like, hey, let's be in this together. I'm totally fine with doing this on my own. I just want your support, but I would love, just letting you know, I would love if you guys wanted to join. So it's totally open. And I think when people have that communication, it makes the process and the acceptance and kind of what's going to go down on a daily basis more enjoyable. Everybody's going to be on the same page. And even if you do have small, disagreements or whatever, at least you've had the conversation. And I think people just try to brush that part under the rug and then get frustrated, like try to avoid the conversation because it's awkward, it's uncomfortable. And they may even know that you're doing the program or you're trying to better yourself or you're trying to improve your health. But that communication hasn't been there. And so now it's just, you keep getting frustrated and you haven't said anything. And now, man, you can really just feel like you're on your own in this. So those of you that are listening, I hope you really grasp that concept of just have that open conversation, and just have it be cooperative and let them share their opinions and their advice. And in that way, you 9 times out of 10, things you let the dust settle and it becomes a lot easier. There's a lot less friction in that. So some great examples there. I did want to, Alex, how much time do we have? I want to touch on one more question. Maybe we have some time for some rapid fires.
Yeah. We are at 57 minutes. So,
rapid fire. Let's go.
Okay. One question before that, though, because I think it'd be super helpful when we were talking about discipline, and you've been in weightlifting for a long time, and any form of resistance training, exercise. I get this a lot, especially with female clients or potential female leads, or even just people asking general questions in the Facebook group. For some reason, women always have the preconceived notion that they're going to get bulky when they resistance train, or, I'm afraid to do that. Can we just focus on nutrition? Or they have these myths that have been told to them. I'm curious to know, what's your feedback? What's your response? What's your advice to the ladies that are in that scenario? Maybe even some guys too, but I just hear it a lot from the ladies. What's your feedback to them? What would be your advice to them?
If they're afraid to, if they're going to get bulky or get started with weightlifting because it's intimidating?
Yeah.
Oh, I could go on about this. I'm so passionate about strength training. So passionate about this. If you're afraid to get bulky because you're lifting weights, that's like saying, oh, I cooked toast, I'm afraid I'm going to become a chef. It's like, nah, dude, you just cooked toast. Like, let's calm down here, right? Like the women that you see that are super bulky, right? Quote unquote bulky, which there are women that really want to look that way, and it's neither good or bad. It's how they define success. Well, those women that have earned the right to be quote unquote bulky has spent majority of their life training and eating in a specific manner in order to achieve that. And a lot of those ladies also add a little extra something to help them achieve that. So if you're going in the gym 3 days a week, lifting for 45 minutes, you're good. Trust me, right? And also another thing is that lifting weights doesn't make you bulky. Eating too many paleo and vegan brownies does. Like, let's just be real. Eating too many calories, that's what makes you bulky, not lifting weights. If anything, like whenever somebody gets in this position where they're like, I'm struggling with this preconceived notion, or like I've been conditioned to think that lifting weights is going to make me more masculine or really, really like bulky, and I just doesn't align with who I am and what I want. All right. One, again, take a look at the source of information. Where did you get that? Diet culture bullshit or Fitspo Jenny online? Okay, let's take a step back and actually bring in facts. Okay. Because what we think and what we feel isn't always reality, but we can bring in facts. We should always rely on facts. And I'm not saying how you think and how you feel isn't important. It is an important part of the equation, but we need to bridge the gap to make sure that we are making rational decisions, right? How many, have you guys ever made a decision or like did something or had an action in like a couple minutes or a couple days later, you're like, fuck man, I don't know why I did that.
Of
Crap.
course.
Yeah. Like we get stressed, we get busy 100%. So like our emotions aren't always reality. Okay. Just like, hey, I feel like I'm going to get bulky just because I lift. Okay. I feel like the sky is purple. Doesn't mean the sky is going to be purple. Let's go back to facts so that way we make very educated decisions. Here are the facts. Weightlifting is phenomenal. Do it. Like, it's absolutely amazing. If you want to, it's like the most efficient way for you to lose weight, lose fat, get the lean look that you're looking for, which, by the way, requires a certain amount of muscle mass. Gosh, it is like the longevity organ. It is absolutely phenomenal, especially for women. Like, it is actually just as imperative or even more imperative, especially as women get older, to do strength training. As women get older, we lose about 3% of muscle mass, and people are like, okay, cool, whatever. Okay, when you lose muscle mass, your metabolism slows down. Okay, so everybody thinks it's like, hey, like I'm getting older and my metabolism is slowing down from age. No, dog, it's because you're losing muscle mass. And so now you're burning less calories. So now you can only eat 1,600 calories maintaining weight, and you want to lose fat. And so you have to go down to like 1,200 calories. And now you can't, now you're telling your son, sorry, Timmy, I can't have a piece of pizza on your birthday because I'm trying to lose weight and I can only eat the recommended intake of a toddler because I have zero muscle mass on my body, right? It also helps create insulin sensitivity. So that helps you keep your energy level. It decreases your chances of becoming diabetic or insulin resistant or things like that. It's just so great in terms of independence, making sure that you don't end up in a freaking wheelchair later on. And it helps with menopause so much, it's not even funny. And let's talk about, like, we work with a lot of really, really stressed and busy people. That is our thing. Right. And so a lot of times we're talking about cortisol, stress management, and how that affects our ability to see results, both mentally and physically, and also discipline too. And motivation. It has a huge hit on that too. And what we're looking into is that when you lift weights, that is a stressor. In order to become more resilient to stress, you have to expose yourself to stress. Just like if you want to get better at a back squat, you have to expose yourself to a back squat more. Within reason. Now, if you're back squatting every single day, trying to do a one rep max every single day, yeah, you ain't going to get stronger. But if you do it in the correct manner, you will progressively get better over a period of time. It's the same thing with stress too. So now women are being more resilient to stress. They're increasing their longevity. They're making menopause a lot easier on them. And by the way, a really great way to naturally balance out your hormones is to build muscle mass. In order for you to build muscle mass, you need to have balanced hormones. And so when you're starting to try to build muscle mass, all of a sudden your body's like, oh shit, we got to get our shit in gear. And they start producing more hormones, and it makes it easier for you to have balanced hormones. Which, like, for those of you listening, most of you are like thinking of like your bound chicka wow wow hormones of like, if I have a libido or if I'm trying to have a baby. And it's beside the point of whether you're trying to have a baby or not. Hormones are little tiny messengers. There's over 50 little messengers in your body that literally tells what your body to do. So having balanced hormones is imperative for you to be able to look the way that you want and live long and healthy, prevent chronic disease, but also it has a huge hand in your mental health too, and your productivity and things like that, which is a big thing that we talk about with our clients. So it's like, long story short, you're hating on the thing that you need to make everything 10 times easier for you and for you to live a long, healthy life and avoid like things like really shitty menopause or hormonal imbalance that's affecting your whole life. Like, it's like if you take anything from this podcast right now, women, is go lift some weights, please. Like, it is amazing. It is absolutely phenomenal. Such a good question. Thank you for asking.
You guys heard it first. You heard it from somebody other than Alex and myself. Listen to Casey. I love that. Great insight, great perspective.
Dudes have trouble getting bulky.
Literally spent 5 years of my life trying to get bulky, and it did not work. I actually got the leanest I have ever gotten, the smallest I've ever gotten. Straight up 6-pack abs, probably maybe like 12, 13% body fat on me, which is like too lean, ladies. That's why my hormones got fucked. Just being honest with you, is too much stress and getting too lean. I did zero cardio. I did zero HIIT. All I did was literally pick up heavy things, put it down, and sit down for 3 to 4 minutes, and then do it again. Like, your girl could lift heavy and was lean as fuck, but could barely even walk upstairs without huffing and puffing and feeling super out of shape. So like, you don't need cardio. You don't need HIIT to get lean. In actuality, fat loss is super easy when you lift weights. I'm not saying cardio and HIIT is bad. I'm just saying that if you don't need it. Like the biggest bang for your buck is going to be weightlifting. And when you combine them all together in a good approach, that's when the magic happens.
Love it.
Love it.
What do you think, Matt? We get some rapid fire questions, finish up. And
Let's
before we
do
do
it.
this, so Casey, can you let everybody know? And thanks so much for coming on. Like this is so much gold in this whole podcast. We went into kind of a lot of different areas of discipline, support, went even to, women getting bulky in the gym and how that's really unrealistic. And so there's a ton of stuff for everybody here. And I'd love for you just to share where everybody can find you and where you want to direct everybody here before we go into the rapid fire.
Yeah, of course. So you can find me. I'm more most active on Instagram. So if you want to look me up there, it's Thriving on KC. So the letters KC. You can look me up there. I'm also on Facebook. It's like KC Miller, and it's again the letters K and a C. My full name is KAY space capital CEE, but most people and I don't blame them. They don't do that right because it's completely weird. So I just literally do my initials, which is KC on everything because it's 10 times easier and it looks cooler in my opinion. So you can find me there on Facebook too. And we also have a Facebook group if you want to join. It's called Surviving to Thriving. That's there too. I believe I provided like a link that you guys can put in the description below, and it literally brings you to all of the social and everything that you need if you want to contact me. And if you want to DM me, I actually answer back. Most people are like, yo, is it actually you? I'm like, yeah, it is me. And I'll send like a picture of me like crushing food or sitting with Meatball, who's that's my dog. Her name is actually Rogue, but we just call her Meatball. So it's all there.
I love it. Well, everybody go follow Casey, go check out her group.
Honestly, just follow me for Meatball. Most of my followers are just there for Meatball, just being honest. It's okay though. She's absolutely adorable. Sassiest doggo around. So
I love it. Well, Matt, let's get her let's do like 4 rapid fires here. So just top of the dome, Casey, whatever you're thinking.
Why did I just get nervous?
All right.
Matt, you're like
number 1. No, we'll keep it simple. Number 1, what's your favorite go-to breakfast?
Oh, favorite go-to breakfast is going to be a breakfast sandwich, hands down. If I don't have to make it, it's even better. Right now, I'm like completely on a hyperfixation on. There's this coffee shop just down the street called Mildred's, and they have this breakfast sandwich on sourdough toast, and I'm just like, every single time it's got bacon and cheese. Oh, so good. Okay, next.
I love it. What's the best advice that you've ever been given? Life advice, fitness advice, whatever.
Best advice overall is that your perfectionism is getting in the way of progress. I was just so hard on myself. So
other side of the coin, worst advice you've ever been given?
Worst advice I've ever been given. Do paleo as a CrossFitter.
Yeah. That's probably the worst advice I used as a coach too. Like, we're all doing paleo.
I was literally having that conversation with somebody the other day, like talking about where I started, and it was like 4 years ago. And they're like talking about the process. And I was like, dude, I fucking sucked. I sucked so much when I first started. I wish I could give all the money back because I was not good. Zone paleo as they're doing like high intensity.
Oh man.
It's great. Yeah. Bet you feel great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll do one last question before we get into it, though. Make sure you share the shit out of this podcast. This is going to help a lot of people. So thanks again, Casey, for coming on. Last question for you.
Yeah.
Who is your biggest role model or somebody who you look up to, aspire to be more like?
My biggest role model, my mom. My mom, she sacrificed everything. She went through so much adversity and went through things that I would never wish on anybody. And she is still here, still fucking fighting and kicking and achieving things that most people never thought she would be able to do. And gave me everything that I ever needed in life. It's actually I'm almost in tears. She's amazing. She's a superhero. She kicks the crap out of everything. One of the reasons why I'm able to be so resilient to stress and take on so much in life is because she led by example. Like whenever I'm going through something, I'm like, fuck that shit. She did that. Like, I'll get back to work kind of a thing. So she's amazing.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Well, like I said, Casey, this has been amazing. We really appreciate you hopping on here. Hopefully we didn't take too much of your time. Looks like we're pretty went pretty long, but we appreciate you staying on. Appreciate you providing all the value, and thanks again, everybody, for taking some time out of your week to watch this. Hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully you got value out of it. Make sure you like, subscribe, share it. We appreciate all the help and just helping us grow and help us get this out to more people and make a bigger impact.
Yeah. And if you're listening, leave a review. If you love these guys, leave a review.
There you go.
Follow, share, show some
That's
love. Right?
That's right.
Appreciate you.
Of course. And thank you for having me. This was a ton of fun. This was a really great conversation. I appreciate you guys a lot. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. We appreciate you.
Absolutely.